Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. And that is going to be lunch for today. Okay, so for today's meal prep, it is going to be a little bit different, a little bit more juicy, a little bit more fancy, but at the same time, it's still gonna be super quick, super easy, and just like it hits all the spots, you know what I mean? High protein, good macros, low calorie, high in fiber, predominantly focused on whole foods. I'm currently in a calorie deficit at the moment. It's been ongoing for a couple of weeks, and I have a couple more weeks left to go until I really see the results that I want. Meal prepping like this helps me stay on track so much, and it is a requirement, literally, if you want to be in a calorie deficit successfully. So that is the prologue to today's video. Basically, we're gonna do a little bit of an Asian fusion twist to the video today because I have a Chinese background. Both of my parents are from China. I have never lived in China. I am born and bred true blue American, ABC, Asian American, you know, completely whitewashed, essentially. So let's get to it, shall we? Let's get started. Let's cook. All right, we are breaking out the big guns today. I am roasting up this entire butternut squash. Look, if I could have gotten a smaller one, I 100% would have. This was quite literally the only one left on the shelf in the grocery store. So I guess we're just gonna be eating this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Anyways, I'm gonna show you the easiest way to prep this bad boy. Alrighty, so we're gonna start off by turning on our oven and preheating it. I'm going to have it at normal fan force and about 200 degrees Celsius. Don't need to peel this thing or anything like that. And using the biggest knife that you can find, we are literally just going to cut this in half. I am just going to, not gonna lie, cutting this thing in half will probably be the most difficult part of this entire video. But you know what, if you get a pre-cut butternut squash like I tried, but like I said, the odds were not in my favor and this was the only one I could find. So please try and find one that is pre-cut already. So anyways, that is pretty much good to go. Going to just scoop out all the seeds. Whew, golly. We hit a upper body sesh this morning and my arms and shoulders are still sore. So this was not an easy feat. I'm just gonna get rid of my seeds. TBH, you could definitely save them and roast them, but look, we ain't doing that today. Fabulous. Now that she has been cut and gutted, we are just going to pop it onto a baking tray. All right, now we're just going to hit it with a little drizzle of olive oil, some salt. Now look, I would have done paprika, but unfortunately I've just run out. So we're really off to a great start to this meal prep video already. But anyways, I'm also going to hit this with just a little bit of honey. This is optional, but you know what? Why not? Now again, optional, but I'm also just going to do a little bit of chili flakes for that hot honey experience. Let's get this in the oven, shall we? All right, so for today's protein choices, we are gonna be using chicken thigh, and that is because it is 10 times more juicy. And I finally kind of get what they mean about chicken breast just, you know, tasting like meal prep. At this point in time, I need to switch it up. And then we're also going to be using turkey mince. So I've got 1 kilo of turkey mince. I've got about 1.5 kilos of chicken thigh for your measurements at home. And that is for both my husband and I for the entire week, lunch and dinner. Alrighty, we're gonna be multitasking here, and we are actually gonna be cooking these both up at the exact same time. So grab 2 pans. With the chicken thigh, we are going to be salting it. I'm just literally doing it straight into this little container right here. I don't really believe in washing your chicken. Studies have shown that when you wash your chicken, it actually spreads more bacteria. Just going to do a little dab of black pepper. Fabulous. Now that's one side seasoned. I am going to be heating up both of these pans simultaneously. A little bit of olive oil in each pan. Shaky, 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 shake. Now just going to take our chicken fillets. These have already been deboned. I'm putting it in seasoning side down, by the way, so I can season the other side. And then into the other one, boop, goes in our turkey. To the turkey, we're gonna be adding in some gochujang right here. About 1 heaped tablespoon and a half. About another tablespoon of garlic. I'm just using the jarred garlic because, you know, convenience. I'm also gonna add in a tablespoon of that to the chicken. All right, don't forget to lightly salt the other side of your chicken. Not too much salt because we are gonna be adding in a little bit more sodium, a little bit more black pepper. Now to both of these, I'm going to be adding in about a tablespoon of soy sauce, light soy sauce here. A tablespoon and a half if you like it a little bit more flavorful. Now we're just going to start breaking up all that turkey. And this is why using chicken thigh is a little bit better than using chicken breast in this scenario, because you don't have to worry so much about it overcooking, you know? Now to the turkey, I'm actually going to be adding in a little bit of kimchi, and that is because I really love the taste of kimchi, but by cooking it down, yes, you do lose some of the probiotic and gut health, you know, benefits, but it kind of just like lessens the intensity of the flavor because, like, you know, kimchi can be such a strong flavor. And so I'm just going to be adding in about half a cup of kimchi plus about 2 tablespoons of its juice. You only really want to add in the kimchi when the turkey is already browned up and it's almost done. Fabulous, that is the turkey. Gonna add in the lid and turn it down. Now we can focus a little bit more on the chicken thigh. So I am going to be adding in about 1 tablespoon, I wanna say, of miso paste. Now just go in and flip that chicken. That miso paste will eventually dissolve, but feel free to pre-mix the marinade before adding it all in. This is just like the super uber lazy way of doing it. And listen, you already know what's coming, but I feel like this is just very typical in Asian cooking. Add a little bit of sweetener to your meat. It honestly changes the game so much, in my opinion. Just a little bit of that sweet and salty. You don't need much. That was probably just 1 tablespoon. Feel free to add honey, feel free to add real sugar, but I'm just using some stevia to keep my macros on point. All right, I can cover the chicken thigh now, and let's just check in on our turkey mince because I'm pretty positive she is pretty much done. Also adding in that kimchi, because what it is essentially is just cabbage, adds a little bit more fiber content to the meat as well, helping you stay regular. Okay, I'm just gonna do a little bit of a taste test. Feel free to adjust the flavor as well. So into this, I'm just gonna add in 1 more tablespoon of soy sauce. So that was 2 tablespoons in total for 1 kg. All right, let's turn off the heat. The turkey is finito. All right, turkey's finished, but I actually forgot to add ginger to my chicken. So we're just gonna do that really quickly. Spoon, ginger, and just peel away that outer skin just like that. Come. Let me show you. Just gonna peel away that skin. The amount of ginger is totally up to you. I am probably going to be using about a thumb-sized piece of this for the chicken. I know that thumbs are not a universal unit of measurement, but you know what? When it comes to the minute details like seasoning measurements, you don't have to be super pedantic about it, okay? Season until it tastes good. Let me zoom you in real quick. I don't really bother with dirtying another bowl for the marinade because it will eventually become one sauce anyways. Like I said, just gonna grate about a thumb size worth of ginger into here. Flipping the chicken over again. And now I'm just going to cook it uncovered. I want some of that liquid to evaporate slightly. Dang, we are Speedy Gonzalez today. Meats are done. Let me just gather up my containers. Let's plate up the turkey. I have literally just gotten that everywhere, which is fine. Everything's fine. All right, just gonna let her cool off to the side. And now we can plate up the chicken. Very nice. Not actually taste tested our chicken yet. You guys, that is some good chicken. Meal prepping is serious business, you guys. Anyways, we're gonna get stuck into the second cooking portion of today's video, which is a really ridiculously easy veggie stir fry. Just gotta wash my hand real quick first. Okay, now listen up. If you are one of those people who thinks that frozen veggies are not as healthy or not as good as fresh veggies, you are sadly mistaken. Frozen veggies are actually picked at their prime, and the technique is to actually freeze them at their prime. So they still have all of the nutrients, all the fiber, all the veggie goodness that vegetables are supposed to have. Try and get seasonal veg 100%. But if you're in a pinch and you need a wide variety of vegetables, right now it's getting to be winter in Australia. The array is not as abundant these days. So frozen veggies it is. I will use frozen veggies till the day I die because they're just so easy. So I've got my stir fry oriental, my go-to because it has all the good stuff that I like. All right, I forgot to record. And that is so typical. Anyways, I just put in a tablespoon and a half of sesame oil because I actually love the nutty flavor that it gives. And then I threw in that whole bag of frozen veg. Here's the thing, you want your pan nice and hot. The key, honestly, to frozen veggies is that you really don't want to overcook them. And you don't want to put a lid on, you don't want them to go all soggy. You want to try and retain as much of its crispness as possible. Just going to add in some salt. Really simple. Now I'm gonna add in the zest of 1 lemon. Going to slice this in half and then squeeze the lemon juice. Just half the lemon. You don't need the whole lemon, otherwise it will be a little bit too acidic in my opinion. You want to basically cook it until like you just have taken off that frozen edge. That is quite literally it. All right, so it has pretty much been about 3 minutes. She's done. Honestly, the combination of the lemon zest plus the lemon juice, it is honestly refreshing. And do you see how bright and colorful that is? That is when you know. If it's already kind of started losing that color, I'm sorry. You've overcooked it. Again, just gonna let that cool down before we add the lid. All right, taking you back to that previous thing that I said about using seasonal veg whenever possible. Just going again to flash fry these, super quick, high heat. We're also gonna hit it with some lemon zest and some lemon. We're gonna start off by washing these. All right, pan is on. We're just heating up that oil. Tear your broccolini directly in. I mean, you can cut it as well if you want, but you know, just tearing mine into 3 pieces. Little bit of that ginger, half of a thumb's worth, lemon zest, just gonna give that a nice little toss. Make sure it is on the highest heat as possible. The juice of half of a lemon, and you see when it starts turning that really vivid green color, quickly turn off the heat and remove it from the heat as quickly as you can. We are just going to chuck that straight in, and you want to make sure you do not leave it in the pan. As soon as it starts changing color to that vivid green, remove it from the heat. Toss it. Let's try to get as much of that heat and steam out as possible. We are actually going to let this cool for about 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna chuck it into the freezer so that it can cool down as quickly as possible. Just for about 5 minutes. All right, now, 2 other things that I'm gonna have in my arsenal for this week is frozen edamame. Now these are shelled and ready to eat. You don't need to cook them. You literally just need to defrost them. So I have 2 bags of these that I'm going to store in the freezer for the week. Pop it onto the side of anything. It's a nice little hit of extra protein and fiber and vegetable content. So it's like a 3-in-1, you know what I mean? Love this stuff. You could buy it in the frozen section at Woolies or Kohl's. Now, also again, the name of the game for this week is convenience. And so I have picked up a cute little bag of coleslaw. So this has beetroot, broccoli, and carrot. So there you go. Nice little colorful side salad. I will show you how we make it less boring and a little bit more exciting. All right, guys, let's do a quick little knife test. Oh my God, beautiful. She is finished. Smells like Thanksgiving in here. Woo, stunning. It is so steamy and beautiful. So look how easily that just slices down. Oh my God, it is stunning. The skin is edible, so I will just be leaving it on. I'm just going to cut them into these nice little slices. And then down the middle, just like that. I absolutely love butternut squash. We call it butternut pumpkin here in Australia, although I know it's a squash and not a pumpkin. In half. All right, we're just gonna pop these into this container. Beautiful. You're gonna let that cool slightly again before adding the lid. All right, let's just hope I don't spill this everywhere. Alright, not too shabby. Alright, everybody, we had to have a bit of a coffee break. By the way, I've just got this really cute little playlist going on in the background. It just is like lo-fi chill vibes with just, you know, this is just my whole aesthetic, honestly. So anyways, we are almost done with the meal prep, all right? I just needed to take a little break because number one, it was lunchtime and I was really hungry. So you'll see that clip later of me assembling my bowl. Honestly, so filling. That that squash, so filling. We are completely finished with the cooking portion of today's meal prep. I'm gonna show you our last and final protein. Alrighty guys, we have tuna. Honestly, you've probably seen me make this like hundreds of times, and it is nothing new. We're just going to be making a quick little tuna salad. High protein, creamy, delicious, tangy. Let's get it. So I'm just going to drain these and pop them into our container. All right, so I've got one can already in here. I'm gonna save the other can and make a second batch later on through the week, because I tend to find that things like tuna salad, chicken salad, they don't really last as long as fresh in the fridge as I would like. So I'm going to use half of this cucumber for now and the other half for the rest of it later on in the week, like I said. Also going to chop up and add in 2 stalks of spring onion. All right, time for our seasoning. 1/4 cup of high protein yogurt. Tiny little bit of spicy mayo. I actually prefer using the Nando's Peronaise because it's much lower in calorie than the QP version. 1 tablespoon. Then I'm gonna go in with a little bit of Frank's Red Hot Sauce. I honestly don't even know how much that was. Tailor it to your own personal preferences. And now I'm gonna go in with some furikake. About 1 teaspoon of that as well. And then just a little bit of salt. And now let's just mix it all up. You can add things like currants or like chopped up apples just for a little hit of sweetness, but this is good for me. This will probably be enough for 2 to 3 meals. All right, honestly, Asian food is just incomplete without spring onion, in my opinion. So I will be chopping up the rest of this bunch and putting it into this container just for garnish throughout the rest of the week, because we eat with our eyes first, and having a little pop of green on top of your food makes a huge difference. Whew, that's a lot of onions. Okay, so I am a huge fan of Vietnamese food. It is so fresh, so good. They have this dipping sauce. I have no idea how to actually pronounce it, but I'll put it up here. It is so good. It's just like a punch of flavor, you know what I mean? We are going to be recreating a lightened up version here, and I'm going to be using stevia and honey. Feel free to use one or the other. Feel free to use normal sugar if that is your desire. We are going to be using about probably 1 teaspoon of stevia, another teaspoon of honey. Gonna go in with some boiling water, probably about like 3 tablespoons or something. Yeah, gonna give that a cute little stir. Now I'm going to go in with a bunch of ginger. All right, now we're gonna set that aside. Chop up a chili. You definitely don't wanna skip out on the chili. All right, we're just gonna take out all the seeds because my husband is not the best with spice, and TBH, neither am I, so. All right, feel free to do all of that directly into the jar. However, I already knew it was gonna go everywhere, so I didn't even try, I didn't even bother. All right, now to this, I'm going to add in a little bit more water. Then we're gonna add in the juice of a lemon. I know that lime juice, honestly, would be so much better, but honestly, right now, limes are just like crazy expensive. So lemon it is. Now we're gonna go in with about 2 tablespoons of fish sauce. Gonna do another tablespoon of fish sauce. Also gonna add in just a little touch of salt. and that honestly will just go so well on top of anything. All right, we are officially done with the meal prep. How very exciting. 2 other things that I highly recommend that you have in your arsenal for this week's meal prep are a condiment like ginger. Honestly, this stuff, whoo, it's potent. It is so good. Add it to anything for a nice little tangy, spicy little kick. Then I also have this little can of baby corn. You know, it's some good stuff. For an Asian fusion meal prep, there's no rice? I know. I'm very sorry. I can feel my ancestors rolling in their graves at the moment. But like I said, it's Asian fusion. Because I'm in a calorie deficit, I'm replacing about 80% of my carbs with vegetables. We got the squash that will fill you up, trust me. And then also I'm gonna have just a little stack of tortillas, just the small kind. Just for a nice little Asian fusion taco situation. And that is going to be lunch for today. I really like to keep my meals sometimes just really light and fresh.